We're starting another chapter now in our AutoCAD Essential Training, and we're going to start looking at using units and also the options dialog box in AutoCAD as well to change some of the settings. We'll also move into looking at drawing template files as well, the DWT file format. So we've got a new drawing for you, and it's called Managing Files.dwg. And what we're going to look at is setting our drawing units. Now, right now, this particular drawing is a metric millimeters drawing. You can see that from the coordinate readout down on the status bar. As you move around, in context, you can see that those distances as we move are obviously in millimeters. They're not in meters because that would make for a very large floor plan. Now, the idea being with your units is you can go in and set the units at any time. You can just type units like so. It comes up there on the dynamic input. And as you can see on the suggestion menu there, you've got units right at the top of the list. So I'll just press enter and that brings up the drawing units dialog box. And as you can see, you can set different length settings. So you've got decimal, architectural, engineering, fractional, and so on. You would normally use architectural, engineering, or fractional if you're working in imperial units, and the decimal setting if you're working in things such as meters, millimeters, and kilometers. There's nothing to stop you, though, having decimal inches as well. It's all contextual and basically is set by yourself when you're working in a particular drawing environment. Depends on standards and obviously the country you're in as well. If you're in America, you might use inches. If you're in the UK, like myself, you would use metric millimeters. Now, also as well, you can set the precision that you want the units to be read in. So you can see that AutoCAD there works to 8 decimal places. Now, that's just visually on the screen. In the background, AutoCAD actually works to 20 decimal places, but you won't ever see that. The maximum you can go to is 8, but your computer's CPU will go to 20 decimal places. So AutoCAD is pretty accurate at most times. Now, normally, if you're working with, let's say, metric millimeters, you'd probably only ever go to 1 decimal place, maybe no decimal places. But as a good rule of thumb, regardless of what units you're using, I tend to go to 2 decimal places when you're working with lengths of lines and polylines and so on. Now, the angle, the rule of thumb there, I'm using decimal degrees, obviously, but you can use degrees, minutes, and seconds, gradients or radians, which are mathematical methods of measurement, or you can use surveyor's units such as north, south, east, and west. Again, decimal degrees, you can see that you've got a precision setting. I normally make that twice as much as the length setting. So I've got 2 decimal places over here, 4 decimal places over here. So that's your drawing units. Now, normally your angles are measured counterclockwise, but you can set them to clockwise if you wish. Normally, though, 99.9% of the time, they will be counterclockwise or anti-clockwise. Direction as well, normally east is 0, with north 90 degrees and so on, going counterclockwise. But you might set that differently. It depends on the environment in which you're working, the standards and so on. So I'll just OK that, and I'll OK my units, and I've now set up my drawing units for this particular drawing.